Hey Pete, what's up?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. I guess we're live and ready to go. So we'll wait till some people get in here. I guess we're a few minutes early, but it's all right. How you doing?
Can't complain.
Yeah,
Staying busy.
yeah. You excited to watch anything in particular tonight? The Toronto Maple Leafs, of course. I mean, they're obviously always good for entertainment.
Yeah, I don't know. The slate tonight isn't spectacular.
No, it's not.
Uh, I I have a a certain love in my heart for the Vancouver Canucks and how imperfect they are, and I
Of
think that
course.
the Canucks Rangers game tonight might be a little bit of fun.
Yeah, that's probably going to be fun. I've saw a couple of sharp people that I follow on under 6 goals there, which I think some people would probably go against conventional wisdom, I guess, for what we think when we think of the Rangers and the Canucks. But the Rangers really haven't been very good offensively. I was looking into that today, and they're scoring less than 2 goals a game at 5-on-5. It's really just been all Igor Shesterkin
Right, and he's been
for their hot
disgusting.
start. Oh yeah,
Right.
no, he's the best young goaltender in the NHL right now, bar none. I think. I don't know if there's anybody else that can really touch him. Although Ilya Sorokin, I don't know how the proper way to pronounce that is yet, but he's pretty close, I guess.
Yeah, and Igor has been unbelievable, and so I don't know where to go with that. I know that um, typically Vancouver is a team that I love to play the over on because they can score. They've got a lot of good talent, but they're historically not a very good defensive team. But the goaltending for both of those sides has been really good in the early going. Like Thatcher Demko has been really good as well.
Yeah, he's been excellent, and the Canucks a plus 110 underdog at DraftKings. Rangers coming in at minus 135. Looks like Shesterkin will get the start. I think that's pretty. It's pretty logical. They've got a back to back coming up here, so that probably means Georgiev gets a start here pretty quick. But I don't really see a whole lot of value in that game. I don't have any bets, anything to do with the Rangers or the Canucks. Actually, my only bet tonight, my only game line is the Calgary Flames, and I'm hoping and I'm praying that it's Connor Ingram or David Rittich in goal and not Juuse Saros. Obviously, the Predators are in Edmonton tomorrow night, so I'm hoping that their plans are to rest Saros up for Connor McDavid and the Oilers. But I still like the bet regardless, even if it is Saros against the Flames, because the Flames they've been looking great, and Jacob Markstrom is the best goaltender in the league right now.
Yeah, so that's the one that I do feel good about in terms of playing tonight. The Calgary has been awesome, and I think that team's really buying in with Daryl Sutter, and like you said, Jacob Markstrom has been awesome. So, Calgary's been a big surprise to me. I didn't know what to think of them. They've looked really good after a kind of a shaky start to the year, and they've since turned it around. And I'm not big on Nashville. I don't think that Nashville's all that great, especially if UC Saros is not in net. So I do like that one. I'm gonna at the risk of getting a little crazy, I've got like a small amount on the Arizona Coyotes to get their first win tonight, and I'll tell you, the the Flyers are okay.
Okay, that's about as far as I would go with the
Right,
Flyers.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're okay, but like early on, they have looked pretty bad at points, and they are towards the bottom of the league in scoring chances per 60 and towards the bottom of the league in scoring chances allowed per 60. So, like, the Flyers, I think, are outperforming, like, in the standings based on how shaky they've been to this point. And, like, I know that the Coyotes are a horrible team. and by design. They are a horrible team by design.
And they're dealing with some added injuries here
Right.
too. With Galchenyuk, he's out week to week. I don't know what the status is on Nick Schmaltz right now. I'm guessing he's like a game time decision at this point, but he's a good player, and they don't have many of those. So
Right.
it's it's a little dicey, but I see where you're going with this for sure.
And the wins are going to come. They're going to be few and far between, but they're going to come.
Well, it almost came versus the Hurricanes just a couple of days ago at an even bigger price. So
like and the Hurricanes are like for a bigger price for a reason, because the Hurricanes are one of the best teams in the league. And I'm not as confident about the Flyers' inability to hold off the Coyotes. So like plus $2 is attractive at a small price.
yeah. Yeah, I mean it's Karel Vejmelka. I know we don't know a lot about him, but he's looked pretty good.
No.
And I mean, you and I both know that goaltenders are voodoo, and I feel comfortable betting on the unknowns more than some of the knowns a lot of the time. I mean,
right.
I'm a lot more. I look at like the Ottawa Senators.
Taking a chance on an unknown than banking on a known.
Totally, yeah. That's a great way to put it. I look at the Ottawa Senators, and not that I'm betting on them tonight because this is just a horrible spot against the Wild here, and I don't think the price is really big enough. But they've got Philip Gustafsson in goal tonight, and he's a huge step up from Matt Murray. If you watch the Blackhawks and Senators game last night, I mean it's clear that Murray he'll pull out an okay performance here and there, but this guy is done, and every game that he starts is a lot. It's a lot more likely that it's a game that's going to end up in the loss column for the Ottawa Senators. So Vejmelka is definitely a goaltender that intrigues me for sure.
Yeah, and like if you watch the Blackhawks and Senators last night, you're somewhat of a glutton for punishment person.
Well, there wasn't a whole lot on.
Yeah, no, last night's slate was very, very weak. But yeah, the goaltending thing I don't read too much into, like, because again, it's voodoo, it's inexplicable, and like to a certain extent, you can say that about anything with hockey. Like, it's a very difficult sport to bet on because there's so much unpredictability on any given night. And I know that's not what a lot of people want to hear, but it's true. Like, it's true. On any given night, anything can happen. So, I think that Arizona gets their first win tonight. I'll say that.
Yeah, one player that I've been really targeting this year, and thanks to the Propagator, the player prop pricing app that's been powering a lot of the stuff I'm doing over at VSiN, is Jacob Chikrin under points, not to get a point. And I believe he's still pointless, or he might have 1 point so far in 9 games. But he exploded last year. And here he is with no points through 9 games. He's under minus 145 at DraftKings. I think that price should be closer to minus 180. I know he's getting some looks on the power play now, but I mean that Coyotes power play is very lethal. So even if they do get a couple of opportunities, I still feel pretty good about Chikrin. This one didn't make it onto the report today. It seemed to have slipped under my nose here, but I do see it now at minus 145 on DraftKings. So that's Jacob Chikrin not to get a point. Pete, I think we've got to talk about the Maple Leafs. I brought it up a little earlier. The Vegas Golden Knights, they're missing Mark Stone, they're missing Max Pacioretty. Obviously, Alex Tuch is out, and now William Karlsson. He apparently has a broken foot. He's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. There's got to be a way the Maple Leafs can screw this up, right? I'm not in a position of strength right now. It hasn't been a great start to the season for me, so I'm not really reaching on some of these big favorites like I would if I was up a bunch. But I do see a little bit of value in Toronto, but I've kind of talked myself out of even getting behind and laying the price with the Maple Leafs tonight. What do you think about this game? There has to be a way that the Maple Leafs screw this up, right?
Yeah, there always exists an opportunity. Like, they lost to a guy who is a Zamboni driver.
What else do you have to say, right?
They'll find ways to screw it up in the most embarrassing way possible, and so like you say that there's value there, but I'm not
Is
willing
there?
to. Right. I'm not willing to reach my neck out and lay chalk
Minus
with the Maple
170,
Leafs. Yeah, I mean, like
minus
I think I
180.
saw a 208,
Yeah,
minus
it can
208.
get up there. Yeah.
So like that's crazy. No way. And especially with the way that they've played so far this season, not impressive. They have looked lackluster and pretty pretty heartless for like pretty empty for the first couple weeks of the season. So,
Yeah.
I do not feel comfortable even with the position that Vegas is in right now, which is it's a really tough position. They've lost almost every notable forward.
Yeah, you look at this lineup, and it is pretty rough. I mean, there are still some good players there, but Petrolangelo is struggling right now. He's got 1 point. Carlson sorry, not Carlson. Smith and Marchessault are good, secondary scorers, but they're going to be elevated into a bigger role here over these next few weeks, obviously, until either Stone or Pacioretty comes back. We're going to see Brett Howden in a big role tonight. We're going to see Peyton Krebs in a big role. He's a player that I've got a lot of interest in going forward, hoping to see him break out. But yeah, the Maple Leafs minus 220 now at DraftKings. So you've got to be out of your mind to lay that price here tonight. And I'm not somebody
You're a
who
sicko
is
if you're laying that chalk with the Leafs.
Toronto is like you said, they've been heartless at times. I do think they'll. I don't even want to say anything. I mean, I was gonna say I think they could show up tonight, but I mean, like it's never a given with this team. There's just I don't know. We talk, we sometimes we scoff at intangibles and, oh, this team's got heart, this team's got grit, but I mean, it's clear as day sometimes with the Maple Leafs that they don't have it at times, and it's really hard for them to muster it up. So
nothing ages historically as poorly as having faith in the Maple Leafs in any capacity.
Yeah, I went out on a limb. I didn't feel like I was going out on a limb, but I defended them, all through last year. Like, no, they've got good as chance as any to win the Stanley Cup. They're an elite team, and
logically speaking, they should have.
Yeah, and I'm not even a Leafs fan. That's what makes it so painful, is that I actually don't like the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I'm gonna try to be objective about this stuff, and you still end up, getting back into that.
You would have been better off just being a homer.
Yeah, exactly.
Being a jerk.
Yeah. Speaking of homers, do you know Jack and Brick well, being from the Boston area? Those guys, I'm a big fan of those guys. So
I know them, at an arm's length. I don't know them super personally. I have defended Jack Edwards in the past.
I think he's great. He's not
he's an entertainer.
People, if you cannot get a kick out of him watching a hockey game, I mean, there is sometimes when he does get a little bit too down in the dumps over some stuff, but for the most part, even when the Bruins are getting their butts kicked, Edwards specifically is a lot of fun. I mean, I laugh out loud by myself here watching games all the time, and bar none, my favorite broadcast team in the NHL.
I wouldn't go that far, but I would say that I'd rather watch a guy that occasionally goes off the rails and embarrasses himself and says some questionable things. I'd rather that guy be on the broadcast than a guy who is just listening to white noise or watching paint dry.
Yeah, I hear you. So, yeah, I still do like the Calgary Flames, like I mentioned. If anybody has just tuned in, that's my only moneyline bet as of right now. I'm still waiting on word if it's going to be Saros or if it's going to be one of the backups. My bet would become a bigger bet if it is one of the backups. But right now, Flames minus 145 at DraftKings. Pete likes the Coyotes tonight to get their first win of the season. I mean, it's plus 190. I think you can probably find a little bit better than that if you shop around. There's probably 2-1 out there.
Yeah, I see 2-1 right now.
The other big story here, Cole Caufield getting sent down to Laval, the Canadiens affiliate, the minor league affiliate. So there goes his Calder Trophy dreams, I guess, and the dreams of anybody who took the favorite, because he was.
Hey, not necessarily. He could be back up next week, and
Yeah,
he could go on a tear over the last however many
true.
months of
Yeah,
the season.
yeah.
Like
No, I shouldn't write it off.
we saw Robertson really kind of close the gap on Kirill Kaprizov
That's true.
last year, just based off of like the last 2 months of the season.
Yeah,
And you know,
good point.
it's a situation where like things change quickly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the Canadians are a trash team, and
Yeah, it's not looking good.
it's it's not going to be the greatest environment. He was coming into a pretty good situation last year at the right time, with the team on a run, and now it's probably best to hide him somewhere for a little bit while they clean this mess up. But he'll be back, like you said, and maybe not this season, but when he is back, he's definitely going to be a player, I think. But looking at the Canadians now, they're in kind of a mess with Brendan Gallagher and Jeff Petrie possibly missing the game. They're both game time decisions. The Red Wings, though, they're in a bit of a bind themselves. Obviously, Nephew Tyler. I gotta call him Nephew Tyler. That's how I remember. Otherwise, I say Todd. You can tell I'm a '90s kid, right? So it's Tyler Bertuzzi. He's not able to travel to Canada because of the vaccination policy. He's unvaccinated. And Dylan Larkin, it was announced this morning that he's out. So there goes 2/3 of the Red Wings top line. It's all about the young guns here in Detroit. Lucas Raymond, Moritz Sider. They're basically neck and neck for the rookie scoring lead. I think Raymond is ahead by 1 point with 9. I saw the young defenseman Sider in at BetMGM at 10-1 to win the rookie. Wow. And if I'm just looking at those two players, like obviously it's early, but if I'm only looking at those two players, it doesn't make sense for me to price Raymond at plus 450 and Sider at 10-1. Given that they're neck and neck in scoring, and if I'm voting for the defenseman if they're even anywhere close to the same production, right? So. It's an interesting team in Detroit, but at plus 120, I don't think I can get behind it, missing their big guns here tonight. Do you have any thoughts on this game, Pete?
I mean, if I was going to play a side, I'd probably play Detroit based off of what I've seen so far this year, just in terms of like their compete level. And they seem to show up on a consistent basis and at least give respectable efforts.
Yeah.
And going up against a team like Montreal that has been an absolute disaster. Like an unmitigated disaster to this point in the year, I'm going to take the plus money with a team that is at least has a bit more solid footing, I think, than Montreal.
Yeah, and there is this is up. This got bet up there. I bet Mike Hoffman minus 125. I think not to get a point, and it's at minus 150. Check out BetMGM, check out other shops. I think that one should be priced close. Look, Hoffman is a guy that he's got a nose for the net. He's going to score a goal every few games probably. Like, he's that type of player, and he's going to put up a specific number of points. But we know who he is, and he's not a top tier producer. But he's sort of been priced like one since joining the Canadians here, and he plays on the top line. And I guess maybe the people that are pricing these props are looking at Hoffman and thinking, well, if not him, but who? Then who?
Like the Canadians need him to be a top
exactly.
Producer,
yeah, it doesn't matter what they need though.
Right.
He's not that guy, and he probably won't become that guy in the late stages of his career here. So
especially on a team that doesn't have the other pieces. Driving in place.
Hoffman has always been like a really great secondary guy, the guy that you like. He's always been that guy that teams talk about. Like, I'm sure that we might, when the Canadians realize that they're out of it, because they are out of it. He's a name that's going to pop up come trade deadline, right? Because he's that guy
he's a plug and play guy. Like,
exactly.
You need goals, you stick him in the lineup, he's going to give you. X amount of goals every single year if you put him in the right situation. But like, the Canadians have so many problems that Mike Hoffman is not going to continue to get his goals at a regular pace if the rest of the team is a mess. Like, he's not changing the equation himself.
Yeah, so even at minus 150 here, it's a little steep for some people, I guess. But Hoffman not to get a point should be priced closer to minus 190, according to our numbers here. But yeah, no, really not a whole lot. Like, I would have maybe considered a bet on the Red Wings, like you said, at if Dylan Larkin was in the lineup, assuming Gallagher and Petrie were out. But with the way things are trending, I don't think it's a great bet. The other game here that I want to touch on quickly is the Senators and the Wild. Like I said earlier, Philip Gustafson is starting goal for the Senators, which is a plus. Cam Talbot for the Wild. I'm not sure what the latest is on Matt Zuccarello. He was in COVID protocol. Obviously, that's a big loss if he can't go for the Wild. They're also missing Jordan Greenway and Alex Goligoski. But there is one player prop that I'll quickly touch on really, really quick, and it's Connor Brown not to get a point at minus 145, I believe. I know who's Connor Brown, right? But this is another player that for some reason is priced like this. But he's a second line player. He gets second power play minutes, but he is he's a little his stats this year even are a little bit distorted. He's got 5 points in 8 games, but 3 of those points came in one game. So really he's pointless. A lot more than half the time. So I like him to go under here, under 0.5 points here at minus 145.
Against a pretty good defensive team too.
That's the other thing. I did note that in the report this morning. Thanks for bringing that up. The Wild, I mean, they don't give up a whole lot, and what they do give up tends to be, the low quality shots and stuff from the perimeter. The situation in San Jose is pretty out of control. I don't know what all is happening there. They've got a handful of players in COVID protocol. Looked like Jonathan Dahlin came out. Timo Meier went in today, so that was a big loss, as Meier's been red hot. I don't know if he's going to stay hot. He's been really overperforming here. But do you like this? I know you're a little bit higher on the Sabres than I am, but I just see the bottom falling out of this thing.
I wouldn't say that. Like,
you said they were good.
I didn't say that. I did not say the Sabres
maybe you just posed the question.
Playing well. Yeah, I think that's very different than saying that they are a good team. Yeah. They have been performing above my expectations, which were essentially in the gutter.
0.
So I think that this is a team that has been impressive based off of expectations to this point in the year. I am with you in thinking that the bottom is eventually going to fall out. Is it going to happen against the Sharks, who I don't think are a very good team either? Probably not. Like, I would feel more comfortable playing the Sabres at plus money than riding the momentum of the Sharks.
I will say this about San Jose. So I wasn't going to play the Winnipeg Jets a couple of days ago. I believe it was Saturday. And then the news came out that all of these San Jose players were going into COVID protocol. The coach was in COVID protocol. It comes out that, you've got Carlson in there, Couture. I don't think Couture was COVID, but he was out. Cogliano. There was like 6 players, pretty key players that were, placed in COVID protocol right before the game. So I jumped on the Winnipeg Jets at minus 105, minus 110, and had quite a big bet down on them. And it was just another time where hockey just kind of bucks conventional wisdom altogether. The Sharks did not look like the team that, were dealing with a COVID outbreak. The Jets looked like the team that were dealing with a COVID outbreak. So, I mean, I'm a little, weary about jumping on this news sometimes because if there's any sport where, a little bit of a boost, a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, a little bit of this life's not fair, so let's go out and show them. Like it really does make a difference sometimes. I don't think it ever does over the long term, but in the short term, and it's hard to quantify. But I mean, I see it all the time. Like
100%. One of my favorite things to do is to bet on a team after they fire their coach. Like the first game under a new coach, whether it's interim or just a new coach in general, in the midst of a season. I feel like that team wins 95% of the time. They're just like rallying for the new guy, and they're like, things are not going well for us. We got to turn it around.
What if they fire their coach? What if their coach resigns because he was complicit in, or allegedly complicit? I'm just joking.
Different situation.
We've never. Let's talk about the Florida Panthers here really quickly, because I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think an undefeated team has ever had to, basically fire their coach, because that's obviously pretty much what happened. I mean, he wouldn't have just given up his job if he didn't want to. If he wanted to keep it, I mean, he probably wouldn't have been able to keep it, is what I was trying to say. Yeah. So what's Andrew Brunette is taking over in the short term. He started as some sort of operations analyst, I believe, and then switched over to assistant or associate coach. And now he's taking over. So I guess the Panthers are going to start a search here for a replacement if that doesn't seem to be the long-term solution. But my gut feeling is this team's really good. It's probably not going to matter. Whatever Quenneville had to instill in them, whatever good team qualities maybe he had to instill in them, I think he's already done that, and maybe like his job is already done in a lot of ways, because he took that team from being kind of soft to being a team that's obviously very competitive now. I mean, they're nothing like the team that got trounced in the bubble against the Islanders a couple of years ago. So I just don't see it being all that big of a deal in the long term or the short term.
It does concern me that Tortorella was named as like the first, first potential guy to replace him, and because like John Tortorella teams is where offense goes to die, and that's really kind of demoralizing for a Panthers team that has been really fun and really sort of high octane over the past couple of years. And like the last thing that I want to see is Jonathan Huberdeau and Sasha Barkov or like Anthony Duclair get sort of put on a leash offensively in a way that hampers the Florida Panthers' enjoyment or entertainment value. And like maybe at the end of the day, that is good for Florida's chances of actually getting into the playoffs and making a long run and making some noise, which they haven't been able to do in a long time. But I sort of like shiver at the fact that this team may become less fun under John Tortorella.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think it would be pretty tough to, for a coach to kind of contain all of the skill that this team has. I think even, John Tortorella, try as he might, would have a hard time turning the Florida Panthers into a boring hockey team.
I don't know. Don't doubt it.
Don't tempt me with a good time. Yeah, no, I hear you, but it's going to be interesting, because like this is an unprecedented situation, right? So it is definitely interesting. 2 player props that I did forget to touch on, and I'm not sure where the Marner one is at right now. But one prop that was ridiculously priced, like everywhere. Like I can't even find this prop right now. It's over 4.5 minus 105 everywhere. But you could bet Austin Matthews over 3.5 shots on goal minus 160. Vegas has no forwards. I mean, right. Say what you want about the Leafs, but they are going to have their opportunities tonight. I don't think the Golden Knights are going to be able to really, possess the puck all that much against the Toronto team at full strength here. And Matthews is, probably got his legs under him now. He came back firing in that first game. He had 16 shot attempts, 8 landed on the net. He's still looking for his second goal. He's only got 1 so far. This is a guy that's got some catching up to do, and I think this prop should be closer to minus 250 according to our numbers here with the propagator at VSiN. And the other one is Mitch Marner, but I think that one may have been moved, or no, it's plus 100, over 2.5 shots, plus 100. Marner, definitely like the prime candidate for what you talked about earlier, the heartlessness, just not giving it enough. But I think that switch has kind of flipped a little bit based on what I've seen over the last couple of games. And this is a good opportunity with Vegas lacking so much depth for him to, register 3 or more shots here. And I think that one should be, like, the chalk should be on the over here, and it's not. It's plus 100. So it's a good bet, but not as good as Matthews over 3.5 minus 160. I There's like you said when we get like usually we have 9 games. There's a ton to talk about, but this slate is sort of boring in a way. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, the past 2 nights have been kind of rough in terms of starting the week with any really entertaining or intriguing matchups just on the slate.
Yeah, totally. So while I have you here really quickly, I'm gonna pull up team futures because I do think we have division winner here. Yeah. So the big switch, the team that I got on, the team that I most like from the perspective of making a bet to win the division was the Calgary Flames at 14-1 and 10-1. They're down to plus 330 now with the Oilers in front at minus 120 and the Golden Knights at plus 320. So we're looking at basically maybe 3 weeks before we see Mark Stone or Max Pacioretty. 3 to 4 weeks, it sounds like. And then a little while longer before we see William Karlsson come back. So I don't think this is going to be the worst that we see of the Vegas Golden Knights. Like, I think we could they've got a pretty easy schedule coming up. They've got a lot of matchups with teams like Detroit and Ottawa and Columbus and stuff. But if they don't get out of the month of November with a winning record, like, it's only going to get tougher. This is their time to accumulate points in the standings, right? So I think you could see that price get a lot bigger. Is there anybody that you're absolutely that has just like totally taken you by surprise? I mean, obviously the Hurricanes were a good team last year. Here they are again. The Avalanche, they've sputtered out of the gate, but a lot of that has to do with injuries, and the Blues have kind of taken advantage of that. Are you surprised by what St. Louis has done, or did you kind of see this coming?
I've been surprised at St. Louis how hot they've been to start the year, but I'm not necessarily buying in. Like I was impressed with their forward group. I think that they have a good amount of depth there. I
wanted to ask you, are you buying into Jordan Binnington being a tough guy?
No, absolutely not. I'm still not sold on their goal prevention, both like on the blue line and Jordan Binnington, period. So like I'm skeptical there. I'm surprised that Montreal has been as bad as they've been. Like I think that there was always going to be some regression, but to the extent that it's been and has been very surprising to me. And then the other one, and we've already touched on this, but Vegas. I mean, Vegas has been a real rough experiment out of the gate, and I don't think anybody really saw that coming. Vegas seemed to be, the class of that division, and the class, right alongside, maybe a step below Colorado as one of the best teams in the West. So pretty surprising that they've fallen as far as they did.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think the Golden Knights situation, they've been held together by goaltending, which is pretty lucky given that they traded away the Vezina trophy winning goaltender who's having a really rough season in Chicago so far. But giving up Fleury, you would have liked to see them replace that with some punch on offense, and I don't think they did that. So that's not yet. Yeah, obviously Jack Eichel rumors are out there, and that would be pretty incredible.
Like to speak to you like your bet about them winning the division. Like if they do end up being desperate or bold enough to trade for Jack Eichel, you would assume that they're stripping something from the current roster. And I mean, they kind of have to make money work in the trade. So like if they're stripping from the current roster and Jack Eichel is going to be out for like 4 months or whatever it is, at least a couple months after he undergoes the surgery, like that may further hinder what's expected of them this season.
Totally. Yeah.
At least in the regular season.
Yeah, I mean it's really interesting, but I do think it's going to be a while before we actually get any kind of clarity on what type of team Vegas is going to end up being. So
All they need to do is kind of tread water and put themselves in a position to make up some ground when things are going more smoothly for them.
Yeah, totally. So Pete, what have you got going on? You're over there at Bally Sports, and what else are you doing? You got a podcast, you got a Twitch channel. Why don't you tell the people about all that stuff?
So I'm at Bally Sports. That's where all my NHL stuff is. I have a podcast called Brunch, which is just like a nonsensical pop culture podcast, and I also just launched a brand new podcast last week or the past couple of weeks.
I must have missed this.
Called Tomato Fights.
Oh, okay. I've seen this. Yeah, that's cool.
So Tomato Fights is a podcast in which we discuss 2 movies with the same Rotten Tomatoes score and pin them up against each other and pick a winner with the help of a guest. And so we've had some good matchups. This week's matchup is Speed versus The Dark Knight, both 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, and the guest is Jay Baruchel.
Oh, wow, that's a great guest.
So very excited about that.
I'm going to check that out.
The first 2 episodes have been a lot of fun. So you can find that wherever you get your podcasts, just at Tomato Fights. And then I'm on Twitch, streaming NHL 22, streaming Friday Night Marbles, and just having loads of fun playing video games.
Why did you pick the Coyotes? Like I was like kind of on board with the Sabres pick last year. They had Hall, they had
for
Reinhart,
some of the same reasons. I when I start a franchise, I look for a team that is terrible, has
got that
some nice pieces, and has good uniforms. So I love the Kachina jerseys, and I would like to rescue the Arizona Coyotes as best I can.
I don't mind their blue line on paper, and I guess from an NHL 22 perspective, it might be fun to play with. I mean,
right.
You got Ghost, you got Connor Timmins, you got Chychrun. It's not bad. I just giving up Garland. I mean, he was like the heart and soul of that team, and in my opinion, the most important player in Vancouver Canucks franchise history. I'm gonna say that right now. No, I'm just joking. But he's an awesome player. I really like him.
I would say it was worth giving up Garland to get rid of the Ekman-Larsson contract, if we're being honest.
Yeah, but you know what? OEL, based on the eye test, I will just say, just from watching the games, he's looked okay. I mean, the contract, put that aside, but I don't think he's totally washed up as a player. Like, I think he's got to have
the Coyotes. Like, it's worth getting him off the books.
Totally,
for where they are.
I had read or listened to some interviews with him too, where he kind of basically said that he was uninspired playing in Arizona by the end of it. So I mean, yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, I'd love to. If you ever want to pad your online versus record, I think I'm 5-12-2 right now, so it's not really going great for me. But
I could use the ego boost. I could use the morale boost. Let's
Dom Lucian beat me 3-0 Toronto to Boston yesterday. It was my finest moment. At least I didn't stream it.
He must have been off the charts.
No, he was puck luck. It was all puck luck. All right, Pete. Well, thank you very much for coming on with me, and hopefully we can do this again sometime. And everybody go check out what Pete's doing there with Tomato Fights and Brunch and Twitch and Bally Sports.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks.